One time, there was a small ship that had just left from Chandanpur and was a few miles out in the sea in the Bay of Bengal. The first mate was surveying through the ocean through his telescope. This is a true story that happened many years back during the British times. And it's amazing that, when you hear this story. So when this person was seeing through his telescope into the sea, he saw his eyes got fixed on a particular point. He thought that it was a giant whale or some monstrous sea animal, that was big enough to swallow the ship. And it was amazing. And whatever that object was, it was coming towards the ship. And rather, the ship was heading towards that object, basically. So now this person panicked because if he doesn't do something immediately, everyone is going to die in the ship. He immediately called the captain and alerted the captain. There was a French captain who was taking a reading of the ship's course in the control room. And hearing the call, he rushed out and he was a little confused. He asked the fellow, "What is the problem?" And this man pointed towards that huge whale or whatever that object was. The captain, his name was Captain, and he took the binoculars and started observing that huge whale. And also he could see there was a storm coming, somewhere in the horizon. There was massive winds, and the sails were being torn apart. The captain first thought he should release the lifeboats from the ship, but the point was there were such high winds, there was hardly any possibility of the lifeboats also reaching the shore, and there could be heavy loss of life. So many people would die. The captain realized this is a very grave situation, and he was becoming helpless. He didn't know what to do. Huge waves were hitting, and the sea was becoming more and more turbulent. The more he observed the danger approaching, the more he became scared because he had no idea what should be done. Finally, he decided the only thing that I can do right now is to ring a warning bell. And he shouted out to the crew, "All of you all, look out for yourself. There is no way we can avert this disaster now." So this French ship had departed from Pondicherry in South India. It was departed to Pondicherry from France, basically. And it was a trade journey, basically. So this was during the 1650s. And a lot of, cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, this kind of trade was happening between Europe and India. And there was just a few more days left to complete this journey. And, so most of the crew and the passengers in the ship were French passengers. And they were going to Pondicherry because Pondicherry was a French settlement at that point in time. So there was a special bell that they were carrying in the ship for the Pondicherry church. And this bell was carried from France towards Pondicherry. And this ship had unloaded the cargo at Pondicherry, and the ship was then to return to France. Now, in the middle of this whole storm, this Captain Beetle began to run around this ship frantically. All the passengers were very scared, and they, were looking at him with some hope, hoping that this fellow will do something miraculous. At least they were thinking, at least let's save the ladies in the ship. Now this man, this Captain Beetle, he had spent 18 years on sea. A very expert captain, but he was completely bewildered. Then a lady passenger ran towards his captain and he said, "Oh Captain, I don't mind if I die. Please save my baby." And this baby was a very, very beautiful looking baby, a 1-year-old baby, and had very innocent looks. The captain really began to cry because he was feeling so bad that this little innocent baby is going to die. So this captain, he had no idea how to save so many people's lives, And in the middle of all this mess that was going on, everybody's crying and shouting and screaming. There was one man sitting quietly without any anxiety. And he was looking at a picture, and kept the picture very close to his heart. And he was whispering something to himself. His mind was completely fixed on that picture. And so this man was an old Indian man. And so he had boarded the ship in the last port. And Captain Beetle, he had, passed him many times and hardly noticed this fellow. The ship was going to be completely shattered in the storm. And this captain, he started praying to God. He said, "Oh dear God, we are so close to this deadly whale." And he was feeling that, what a way to die, So this captain, so he was so confused and so bewildered that he found this one man to be very strange, Everybody else was panicking and crying and shouting and howling and begging for mercy and all that. But this one man was so quiet and so serene, basically. So this captain went to this old man and he looked at the picture in which this man was looking at. And in his hand, and in this man's hand, was a painting of three deities: Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra. One was black, one was yellow, and one was white. And this eyes of the deity was big and huge. And this captain, when he saw this eyes of this deity, he said, "They remind me of the eyes of the whale, two huge black eyes of this whale." And he asked this man, "What are you doing?" So this man, he looked at the captain and he said, "I'm praying to Lord Jagannath to rescue us from this catastrophe." Imagine in the middle of such a chaos, such a big storm, these people are discussing about Jagannath. The captain said, "Jagannath? Who is he? Where is he? What can he do for us? Can he kill this whale with any weapon? Can he save our ship from this storm?" This old man, he smiled. And he was so calm and composed in the middle of this crisis. He said, "My Lord Jagannath is the only resort. And whatever danger comes in our life, it will go away if we pray to Lord Jagannath." And this man, he was so passionate and so convinced about it that this captain, he actually thought for a moment, maybe he's true. And so this man said, "Whenever you call Jagannath, he comes and helps us." The captain asked him, "Can he save us from the clutches of death?" This man said, "He will do the needful. And that is his work," he said. So this captain asked him, "What power does your God have? Can he act as a controller over force of nature over here?" The captain asked. And he said, "If you can save this ship, I will offer all the treasures on the board of the ship as well as myself," the captain said. This old man closed his eyes and continued praying. The captain rushed to the upper deck of the ship, and to his great surprise, he saw one very miraculous thing. The whale changed its direction. This huge whale that was coming, he completely changed its direction. And the whale moved out of the direction of the ship and it went into the deep sea. The more the captain observed this, the more his face was filled with amazement. The ship was still tossing over the storm. The captain felt at least one danger is gone. The whale is gone, But nature has its own fury. What is going to happen to nature? So the way the waves were tossing, he thought that any moment the ship can be tossed by one of the waves and it will be completely over. Then the captain suddenly remembered this old man's curious picture. The picture began to flash in front of his eyes. And this captain did. He's a Christian fellow. Never in his life he had ever heard of Jagannath also in his life. And this man, He prayed to Jagannath at this point in time. Very frantically, he started praying to Jagannath. And to his greatest surprise, the whole catastrophe, the way this, the ship was moving, and the way the storm was moving, the whole thing, the direction of the ship changed, and the storm started settling down. The storm became very, very calm, and the sea completely started settling down. And it seemed in a few minutes as if there was absolutely no storm at all. Nothing like this had ever happened before. So this captain, he was shocked beyond his comprehension. He had never ever, come across a situation like this, and he had never ever seen anything like this. This captain, he became such a great devotee of Lord Jagannath after this. And this captain, he actually donated this bell that was going for the church. He gave this bell to the temple of Jagannath after that. Even till today, this huge bell is there in the temple of Jagannath as a mark of respect of this Captain Beetle for saving the ship from this massive whale and this massive storm at the same time. And that is how Jagannath got this huge bell that was supposed to go to some church in Pondicherry, but rather it reached the temple of Jagannath as an offering of respect by this Captain Beetle. And this Captain Beetle became a great devotee of Jagannath, even though he had never heard of Jagannath in his life. And even though he never got to visit inside the temple, but he remained a devoted devotee of Lord Jagannath. So let us all take shelter of the Lord during the greatest crisis of our life. If there is anything that no human being can help with, and no one else has any clue about, Jagannath is there who can take care of it and help us. And therefore, he is known as the Lord of the universe. The forces of nature, the greatest forces of nature, are under his control. And therefore, let us, on this very auspicious eve of Jagannath Rath Yatra coming up 2 days from now, meditate on Lord Jagannath and this beautiful pastime. On 7th of July, which is a Sunday, we're going to have a very special Jagannath Katha at 8 o'clock in the morning. Please do join in this very beautiful Jagannath Katha, where I'll be sharing with all of you many stories of Jagannath. But more importantly, I'll be sharing with you all the mood and the consciousness with which we should understand the pastimes of Lord Jagannath. Thank you very much for joining in. Hare Krishna.